The silent encounter, the dormitory lights dimmed slowly, casting long shadows across the narrow room. The human Daniel lay awake on his bunk, staring at the ceiling where faint glowing lines pulsed with the hum of alien machinery. It was supposed to be a peaceful night, the kind he rarely got on this colony station. But something felt wrong. His new roommate was not human. She was tall, with faint silver patterns running across her skin, and her eyes glowed faintly in the dark. She had spoken very little since their assignment to share the room. Daniel thought she was simply shy. Yet tonight, she moved restlessly, shifting in her bunk above his. Her breathing came fast, uneven, and the sound of her claws tapping against the metal frame made his heart race. Daniel turned on his side, trying to ignore it, but the noises grew stranger. There was whispering, not words, but low vibrating tones that shook in his bones. At first, he thought she was dreaming, but then he noticed the way her head snapped to the side, her ears twitching at sounds only she could hear. Curiosity burned inside him. He had always been warned not to interfere with alien customs, not to pry. Humans were considered guests here, watched carefully. Still, he couldn't help it. He shifted quietly, slipping down from his bunk. The floor was cold under his feet. As he crouched, slowly, he peeked beneath her bed. What he saw made his breath catch. A faint blue glow shimmered against the wall. Something small and metallic rested in the shadows, like a living device pulsing with light. Wires spread like veins, and a soft vibration filled the air. His roommate's claws tapped nervously against the bedframe above. As if she knew he was there, suddenly she gasped. Her eyes shot open, glowing brighter than before. In a blur, she bent down, her face appearing inches from his. Her expression was pure panic. Her voice cracked, filled with terror as she hissed, "You were not supposed to see this." Daniel froze, his heart hammering. Her voice was sharper now, her accent stronger. She trembled as if the very walls were closing in. He tried to speak, to say he meant no harm, but her fear spread like fire. She clutched his arm with surprising strength, pulling him closer. "You should not be here," she whispered harshly. Her gaze darted toward the glowing device. "If they know you looked under me, if they know you saw." She cut herself short, her lips trembling. Daniel felt a chill crawl down his spine. He had no idea who they were, nor why a simple glance beneath her bed could cause such fear. But her reaction was real, desperate. He could see it in her trembling hands, in the way her chest rose and fell like she was suffocating. He swallowed hard. "I don't understand," he whispered, trying to keep calm. "What is it? What's happening?" Her pupils widened, glowing like molten silver. She shook her head quickly. "No questions, human. Pretend you saw nothing. Pretend you never came here." Daniel wanted to step back, to escape her grip, but her panic only tightened. She glanced at the door as if expecting it to burst open any second. The humming of the device grew louder, filling the small room with a faint vibration that rattled in his chest. "What happens if they find out?" he asked, his voice barely audible. Her entire body stiffened. For a moment, she said nothing. Only the sound of her breathing and the soft hum filled the air. Then, finally, she whispered, "Then both of us are already dead." Daniel's blood ran cold. The words sank into him like a blade. He realized this was no simple misunderstanding. Something dangerous was happening right inside their room. Something she had been hiding. Something he was never meant to discover. She released him suddenly, pushing him back toward his bunk. Her claws shook as she pressed a hand against her forehead. Muttering in her own alien tongue, Daniel stumbled backward, his knees hitting the edge of his bed. He sat down, breathing hard, unable to look away from the terror in her eyes. The silence stretched, heavy and suffocating. Only the device continued its eerie glow, casting ghostly light across the walls. His roommate sat curled on her bunk, hugging her knees, whispering words too soft for him to catch. Daniel knew one thing for certain: whatever secret she was hiding, it was bigger than him, bigger than both of them. And now, because of one reckless moment, He was a part of it. The room seemed colder, the shadows deeper. Every hum of the machine sounded like a countdown. He lay back slowly, staring at the ceiling. His heart refused to slow. Every beat reminded him of her words. "If they know you were beneath me, we are both dead." And in that suffocating silence, Daniel realized he had stepped into something far more dangerous than he could have ever imagined. The forbidden secret. Daniel could not sleep that night. The words of his alien roommate echoed again and again in his head. "If they know you were beneath me, we are both dead." It was not something he could forget, not something he could push away like a dream. The more he tried, the louder it grew inside him. By morning, she was quiet. She moved around the room like a shadow, never meeting his eyes. She did not greet him, did not speak. Her steps were soft, careful, as though every sound might betray her. Daniel watched but said nothing. His throat was dry, his mind full of questions. Why had she panicked? Why was she so afraid of being found out? And what was that strange device glowing beneath her bed? The station's corridors were noisy during the day. Aliens of many kinds walked together with humans, working, trading, studying. Yet Daniel noticed something different. His roommate kept her distance from the others. She looked over her shoulder too often. She avoided corners. Her silver eyes darted toward every sound. It was as if she expected someone to leap from the shadows. When they returned to the dormitory, Daniel could not hold his silence anymore. He stepped in front of her before she reached her bunk, his voice low but steady. "I need to know. What is that thing? Why did you panic?" Her head snapped up, her glowing eyes narrowed. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she whispered, "You should not ask." "I already saw it," Daniel said firmly. "I can't pretend I didn't. If it's dangerous, I have the right to know." Her hands clenched into fists. The silver patterns across her skin pulsed faintly, like living veins. She lowered her voice. "You are human. You should not be mixed in our affairs. But now it is too late." Daniel felt his pulse quicken. She stepped closer until he could feel the heat of her breath. Her voice trembled as she finally spoke. "That device is a tracker. It records my movements. It watches me. I cannot hide from it. And now, because you were near it, it watches you too." Daniel's stomach twisted. "Who put it there?" She closed her eyes, as if the truth was poison. "My people," she whispered. "They fear I may betray them. They fear I may speak to humans, so they watch me, day and night." Daniel took a step back. The words struck him like a weight. This was more than a simple roommate issue. This was a secret war, a conflict he was never supposed to see. He shook his head slowly. "But why? Why would they care if you speak to me?" Her lips pressed tightly. Her chest rose with a shudder. "Because the truth I hold could destroy them," she said. "And if you are close to me, you may share my fate." Daniel's heart pounded harder. The walls of the dormitory suddenly felt too close. The humming of the alien machine seemed louder now, like a warning. He tried to laugh, tried to ease the fear building inside. "You're exaggerating. It's just a piece of metal, just a device." "But—" She did not laugh. Her eyes widened in sharp anger. "No, human, you do not understand. That machine is not just metal. It is a chain, a cage. A death sentence if I step out of line." Daniel swallowed. For the first time, he felt the weight of her fear settle onto his own shoulders. The panic that had filled her eyes last night was real, and now he could feel it pressing against him too. He lowered his voice. "What do they want from you?" Her hands shook. She turned away, curling into herself as she whispered, "They want silence. They want obedience. They want me to forget who I am. But I cannot." Daniel stood frozen. He wanted to ask more. He wanted to demand the whole truth. But one look at her trembling form stopped him. She was not lying. She was not playing games. Whatever she carried inside was heavy enough to break her. Silence fell between them, only. The faint hum of the device filled the room. Daniel sat slowly on his bunk. He tried to calm himself, but his heart refused. He knew too much now, and yet not enough. As the hours passed, one thought kept returning. If the device was watching them, if her people were tracking every move, then they were already in danger. Late that night, Daniel woke to soft sobs. He turned his head and saw her sitting on the floor, her face buried in her hands, silver light. From her eyes spilled down her cheeks like glowing tears. He wanted to comfort her, but he stayed still, listening. Her voice cracked as she whispered to herself, "They will find me soon. They will take me back, and the human. They will not let him live." Daniel's breath caught in his chest. The truth settled deep inside him. He was no longer an innocent bystander. He was trapped in her forbidden secret. And whether he liked it or not, his life had just become part of hers. Strange behavior. The days that followed felt heavy with silence. Daniel noticed his alien roommate was no longer the same calm and distant figure she had been before. She had become restless, twitching at sudden noises, checking the corners of their dormitory as though invisible eyes watched from the shadows. At first, Daniel thought it was simple fear. Maybe the tracker beneath her bed made her paranoid. But the more he watched her, the more he realized this was not just nervousness. This was survival. She no longer ate her meals in the public hall. Instead, she brought food back quietly, keeping her hood low over her face. When other aliens walked past them in the corridor, her shoulders stiffened, her claws curled, and her eyes followed them until they were gone. Daniel could feel her tension pulling him in, making his own skin crawl. At night, it grew worse. The whispers returned, low and vibrating like they came from the walls themselves. Sometimes Daniel thought it was the machine beneath her bed. Sometimes he thought it was her, speaking to someone in her own tongue. But when he asked, she only pressed her claws to her lips and shook her head. One night, Daniel woke to find her standing in the middle of the room. Her back was rigid, her glowing eyes wide open. She held a small blade of alien metal in her hand. He froze. Breath caught in his chest. She didn't move for a long time. Then slowly, she turned her head toward him. "They are close," she whispered, her voice hollow. "I can feel them." Daniel sat up, his heart racing. "Who?" She did not answer. Instead, she walked to the door, placed her ear against the cold surface, and listened. After a long silence, she returned to her bed, sliding the blade under her pillow. Sleep never came to Daniel that night. He lay awake, staring at the faint blue glow beneath her bunk. He wondered if he was losing his mind, if fear was spreading from her to him like a disease. The next morning, Daniel tried to act normal. He spoke to her as he usually did, trying to break the heavy silence. But she only gave short answers, never looking him in the eye. He noticed she was carrying a small pouch now, tied tightly to her belt. She never left it behind, even when she went to the washroom. "What's in there?" Daniel asked quietly when they were alone. She froze, then pulled the pouch closer to her side. "Nothing for you," she said sharply. "Do not ask again." The coldness in her tone made Daniel step back. For a moment, he felt like a stranger. In his own room, he wanted to demand the truth. But something about her trembling hands stopped him. He knew she was already holding too much inside. That night, the station alarms rang. The sound was loud and sharp, echoing through the corridors. Daniel leapt from his bunk, his heart racing. His roommate was already awake, clutching the pouch with one hand and the blade with the other. "What's happening?" Daniel asked her. Silver eyes glowed brighter, filled with fear. "Search patrols," she whispered. "They are looking for someone." Daniel swallowed. "For you?" She didn't answer. She only pressed her finger to her lips and motioned for him to stay silent. The footsteps grew louder outside their room, heavy boots clanging against the metal floor. A voice echoed down the hall, speaking in an alien language. Daniel couldn't understand. Daniel's chest tightened. He turned toward her. "If they come in here, what will they do?" She closed her eyes, whispering through trembling lips. "They will kill you for knowing and take me back to die." The footsteps passed their door, fading slowly. The alarms quieted, but the silence that followed was worse than the noise. Daniel sat back on his bunk, his entire body shaking. He realized that every second with her pulled him deeper into a world he did not understand. Later, when the dormitory was quiet again, she finally spoke. Her voice was soft, broken. "You should leave this place, human. You should request transfer." "Before it is too late," Daniel looked at her, his jaw tight. "And leave you here to face this alone?" Her glowing eyes flickered with something between anger and sadness. "You owe me nothing. Your life is still free. Do not tie it to mine." But Daniel shook his head slowly. "It's too late. I'm already tied to it." She stared at him. For a long time, her claws tapping nervously against the metal frame of her bed. Finally she whispered, "Then you must be ready, because what hunts me will soon hunt you too." The room grew quiet again, but Daniel could feel it in the air. Something was coming for them. And it was only a matter of time before the walls of the station could no longer protect them. The hidden enemy. Daniel could no longer deny it. Something was wrong with the air inside the station. He felt it in the way the walls seemed to hum at night, in the way shadows stretched too far under the dim lights. His roommate's fear was not madness, it was real. One evening, when the corridors outside had quieted, Daniel decided he had to know more. He waited until his alien roommate left the room for a short moment. Then, with his heart pounding, he knelt beside her bunk and pulled back the sheet covering the space beneath. The device was still there, glowing faintly. Its wires pulsed like veins, spreading across the floor. This time Daniel noticed something new, etched symbols along its side. Glowing faintly red, he reached out a hand, but before he could touch it, her voice cut through the silence. "Don't!" she hissed, appearing behind him. Her claws trembled as she grabbed his wrist and pulled him back. "Do not touch it, human. It listens." Daniel froze, his throat dry. "Listens? To what?" Her silver eyes darted toward the ceiling, then back to him. "Not what," she whispered. "Who?" The word sent a chill down his spine. She crouched beside the device, her voice low. "This is not only a tracker. It is a beacon. It calls. To them, every pulse it sends, every glow it makes, tells them where I am. If you touch it, it might tell them even more." Daniel's mouth went dry. "Who are they?" Her eyes narrowed, glowing brighter as fear spread across her face. "Hunters," she whispered. "The ones my people send to silence me." The word hunters echoed inside Daniel's mind like a dark bell. He backed away slowly. The machines. Faint hum now felt like a heartbeat, not mechanical but alive that night. Daniel woke to a strange sound. It was not the whispers this time. It was scratching, deep and metallic, like claws dragging across the walls. He sat up quickly. His roommate was already awake. Her glowing eyes locked on the door. Her body stiff, blade in her hand. The scratching grew louder. "Closer." Daniel's pulse raced. He whispered, "Is it them?" She did not answer, but the way her shoulders trembled was enough. The sound stopped suddenly. The silence that followed was heavier than before. Then a shadow passed under the door, tall and narrow. Lingering for a moment before moving on, Daniel held his breath, his hands clenched into fists. His roommate slowly lowered the blade, but did not relax. She whispered so softly, he almost didn't hear. "They are testing the walls." Daniel frowned. "Testing?" She nodded, her eyes wide. "They do not rush. They wait. They listen. They scratch to see if we move. If we make a sound, they will mark us." Daniel felt ice in his veins. He wanted to believe she was wrong, that this was only her fear twisting the silence into threats. But then the scratching came again, this time from the ceiling. Slow and deliberate, she moved quickly, sliding the glowing device deeper under her bed, covering it with metal sheets. "If they see it, we are finished," she whispered. "If they know you are here with me, you are finished." Daniel leaned closer, whispering, "Why not destroy it? Smash it and end this?" Her face twisted in pain. "I tried once, the moment I struck it. The station alarm sounded. They built it so I cannot break free. It binds me as much as chains." Daniel stared at her, his chest heavy. He wanted to say something, anything. That would comfort her. But the truth was clear. They were trapped, hunted by enemies he could not see. Suddenly, The lights in the room flickered. The hum of the machine grew louder. Daniel turned toward it, and for the first time, he thought he heard something more than vibration. It was a voice, distant and sharp, speaking in an alien tongue. His roommate's eyes widened in terror. She lunged forward and slammed her hand against the machine, silencing it. Her body shook as she looked at him. "They are calling," she whispered. "And they know you are with me now." Daniel's heart stopped. For a moment he could not breathe. He realized he was no longer just a witness to her secret. He was marked too. The scratching outside stopped, replaced by silence. A silence so deep it felt alive. His roommate sat on the floor, clutching her, blade in one hand and the pouch in the other. Her glowing eyes locked on the door. Daniel lowered his voice. "What's in the pouch?" She hesitated, then whispered, "The only thing they fear." He wanted to ask more, but she pressed a finger to her lips. The silence outside thickened, pressing against the walls. He lay back slowly, staring at the ceiling, the sound of his heartbeat too loud in his ears. Sleep would not come, not tonight, maybe not ever again. For now he knew the enemy was not just watching, it was here, and it would not stop until one of them was gone. The panic grows. The scratching never left Daniel's mind. Even when the halls of the station filled with noise the next day, even when workers and students hurried past them with laughter and chatter, he could still hear it in the back of his head. The sound of claws dragging across metal. His alien roommate walked beside him, silent and stiff. Her hood was pulled low, her pouch clutched tightly to her side. Daniel noticed her eyes shifting constantly, searching every corner, every face. The fear was consuming her, and now it was consuming him too. When they returned to the dormitory, she locked the door behind them, something she had never done before. Daniel frowned. "Why lock it? Isn't that suspicious?" Her glowing eyes met his, sharp and desperate. "Suspicious or not, it will not stop them. But maybe it will slow them." Her claws tapped against the walls, as if searching for weak spots. She pressed her ear against the vents, listening to the faint hum of air. Daniel watched, his chest tight. He wanted to tell her she was imagining it, but the memory of the scratching silenced him. Hours passed. The room felt smaller, colder. Daniel tried to distract himself by reading reports on his datapad, but every flicker of light, every faint noise in the hallway made him jump. His roommate sat cross-legged on her bunk, her blade across her lap, staring at the door as if waiting for it to burst open. Then, late in the night, the sound came again, not scratching this time, but a low metallic whisper that seemed to crawl through the vents. Daniel froze. His roommate's eyes widened. She leapt from the bed, pressing her claws against the vent. The whisper grew louder, a voice speaking in her language. Daniel could not understand the words, but he understood the tone. It was hunting, taunting, promising. Her breathing turned frantic. She slammed the vent shut, then turned to Daniel. "They are here. They are in the walls." Daniel's chest tightened. "What do they want?" Her voice cracked. "Me." Then her gaze shifted to him, and her hands shook. "And now you." Before Daniel could respond, the lights flickered, then dimmed to a faint glow. The machine beneath her bed pulsed brighter. Its veins of light spread wider across the floor. Daniel felt the vibration deep in his chest. The sound was no longer mechanical. It was alive, beating like a second heart in the room. His roommate dropped to her knees and pulled the device out. The glow painted her silver skin in ghostly light. She pressed her claws against its surface, whispering words in her language. Daniel watched in shock as the veins of light wrapped around her arms like chains. "What are you doing?" he demanded. Her voice shook, trying to quiet it, but it calls to them stronger each night. "They know where we are. They are already coming." Daniel stepped forward, but she snapped her head toward him, her eyes blazing. "Do not touch me, human. If you break this link, they will break through the door." He froze, helpless. The room vibrated with every hum of the machine. His heart raced so fast he thought it might tear out of his chest. Then came another sound, heavy footsteps in the corridor, slow and deliberate. His roommate's eyes widened. She whispered, "Too soon. They are here too soon." The footsteps stopped outside their door. Silence pressed against them. Daniel held his breath. The machine pulsed once, twice, then went dark. His roommate slumped forward, gasping for air. The silence shattered as a loud clang echoed against the door. Something was testing it. Daniel backed away, his legs trembling. "What do we do?" Her silver eyes lifted, blazing with determination and terror. "If they break through, you run. Do not look back." Daniel shook his head. "I can't leave you. You must." She snapped, her claws tightening around her blade. "If you stay, they will kill you first. They will use you to break me." The door clanged again. Louder, the frame shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. Daniel's chest felt like it was caving in. He wanted to run, but his legs refused. Then the whisper came again, this time through the cracks of the door, low and chilling, calling her name. Daniel could not understand it, but the way her face twisted told him everything. They were not just hunters. They knew her. They wanted her personally. She lifted the pouch from her belt. Holding it tight, her voice dropped to a whisper. "If they break through, this is all I have left. The only thing that can keep them back." Daniel's eyes locked on the pouch. "What is it?" Her jaw clenched. "A memory, forbidden to them, feared by them. And if I use it, there is no turning back." The door rattled violently. Metal screamed as claws scraped deep into its frame. Daniel's body froze. His roommate stood tall now, her blade in one hand, the pouch in the other. Her fear was still there, but something stronger burned in her eyes. Defiance. The hunters were here. The panic had grown into something worse. And Daniel realized there would be no more silence. No more waiting. The battle for their survival was about to begin. The truth revealed, pounding on the door finally stopped. The silence that followed was worse. Daniel stood frozen, sweat dripping down his face. His alien roommate still clutched her blade, the pouch held tight in her other hand. Her glowing eyes burned with fear and something deeper. Daniel's voice cracked. "They're gone?" She shook her head slowly. "No, they never leave, they wait." The words crawled into his chest. He sank onto his bunk, his body trembling. He could not take it anymore. He needed answers. He needed to understand what he was trapped in. He looked at her sharply. "Tell me the truth. Why are they after you? What is in that pouch? Why is a machine under your bed calling monsters to our door?" Her claws dug into the leather of the pouch. Her lips pressed tight. For a long time she said nothing. Then finally she sat down across from him, her silver eyes glowing in the dim light. "My people," she began slowly, her voice breaking, "were never united. Long ago, there was a war. Not of armies, but of ideas. Some believed we should control every world we touched. Others believed we should share, trade, and grow with others. I was born into the second path, the path of peace." Daniel leaned forward, listening. She had never spoken so much before, never revealed herself this way. "But peace was dangerous," she whispered, "because it meant giving up power, so the others silenced us, one by one. Families vanished, voices erased. I should have vanished too, but I survived. I escaped. I carried with me one thing they could never destroy." Her hand lifted the pouch, holding it carefully. "A memory crystal. It carries the voices of the old ones. Proof that my people once believed in peace. Proof that their rule is built on lies. If it reaches the wrong ears, their empire will fall." Daniel's heart pounded. He stared at the pouch. "So that's why they hunt you?" She nodded. "Yes, to them I am dangerous. Not because of who I am, but because of what I carry. If they take me, they will rip it from my hands, erase it, and kill anyone who knows. That includes you, human." The weight of her words pressed against him. Daniel swallowed hard. Then why stay here? Why not run? Why not give it to someone who can protect you? Her glowing eyes dimmed. "Because there is nowhere left to run. Every world I set foot on, they find me. Every friend I trust. They vanish, until now, The only one left to know the truth is you. Daniel froze. Her words sank into him like stone. He never asked for this. Never wanted to be part of her war. But now he was, whether he liked it or not. He was carrying her secret too. The silence stretched. Then she whispered, "Do you hate me for it?" Daniel blinked, shocked. "Hate you? You think I'd hate you for telling me the truth?" Her lips trembled. "Humans value safety, order, comfort. You had all of it until I dragged you into my danger. If I had stayed silent, you could still be safe." Daniel shook his head. His voice was firm. "Safe from what? Living in ignorance while someone is hunted to death. No. I don't hate you, but I need to know. What happens if you fail?" Her silver eyes darkened. "If I fail, then the hunters will burn everything I touched. They will erase me, and anyone who stood near me. You will not be remembered. Your kind will never know why. You will disappear into silence." Daniel's breath caught in his throat. He looked at the door, half expecting the claws to return. The weight of her words was heavier than any weapon. For the first time, he truly understood. This was not about her alone. This was bigger. She leaned closer, her voice trembling. "That is why you must choose. Human, you can walk away, request a new room, pretend you never saw me, or you can stand with me, knowing you will never be safe again." Daniel's chest tightened. His thoughts clashed inside him. Every instinct screamed to run, to escape, to return to safety. But then he looked at her, the fear in her glowing eyes, the trembling hands clutching the pouch like it was her soul. He realized she had carried this burden alone for too long. He took a deep breath, his voice steady. "If I leave, you die. If I stay, maybe we both live. I don't need more choices than that." Her eyes widened, glowing brighter. For a moment, he thought she might cry. Instead, she lowered her head, whispering, "Then you are more foolish than I thought, human. But also braver." The silence returned, heavy but different. This time it carried not just fear, but a bond, fragile but real. Daniel knew the hunters would not stop. The machine would pulse again. The whispers would return, but now he was not just a witness. He was part of the truth, part of her fight. And as he lay back on his bunk, staring at the ceiling, one thought refused to leave his mind. He had made his choice, and there would be no turning back. The choice. The dormitory was silent again, but the silence did not bring comfort. It was heavy, waiting, watching. Daniel lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying every word she had spoken. The truth was too big to ignore, and now it lived. Inside him, his alien roommate sat across the room, her blade resting across her knees, the pouch clutched tightly against her chest. Her silver eyes glowed faintly in the darkness. She had not slept in days. Every sound made her tense, every flicker of light made her claws twitch. Daniel finally whispered, "You can't live like this forever." She did not look up. Her voice was flat. "I was never meant to live forever. I was meant to carry this secret until the end. If the hunters find me, they will erase me. That was always my fate." Daniel shook his head. "No, not anymore. Not while I'm here." Before she could answer, the sound came. This time it was not scratching, not whispers in the vents. It was the sharp hiss of pressurized air as the lock on their door released. Her body stiffened instantly. She leapt to her feet, blade in hand. The pouch was tied tightly to her belt. Daniel's chest tightened. His heart raced as the door began to slide open. A shadow spilled into the room, tall and twisted. Its outline was wrong, its limbs too long. Its eyes glowed like burning coals. Daniel froze, every instinct screaming to run. The hunter stepped inside, its movements slow and deliberate. Another shadow followed, then another. The room filled with their presence. The air grew cold. The machine beneath the bed pulsed again, glowing brighter as if calling to them. Daniel's roommate moved fast. She slashed the blade across the floor, sparks flying. Her voice rang out in her own tongue, harsh and defiant. The hunters stopped, their glowing eyes fixed on her. Then one spoke. its voice deep and vibrating through the walls. The words meant nothing to Daniel, but the way she flinched told him everything. They wanted the pouch. They wanted the memory crystal. She shouted back, her voice trembling with fury, "You will never have it." Daniel's chest tightened. He saw her hands shaking, saw the blade trembling. He knew she was terrified. But still she stood between him and them. One of the hunters stepped forward, raising a weapon unlike anything Daniel had ever seen, a long staff glowing with dark energy. The air around it shimmered. Daniel's stomach twisted. He knew what would happen next. Before he could think, his body moved. He stepped beside her. His voice cracked but firm. "You're not alone." Her eyes flicked to him, wide with shock. Then the hunter lunged. The blade of energy slashed down. She blocked with her own weapon, the clash sending a shockwave through the small room. Daniel stumbled back, covering his face as sparks burned the air. She shouted at him, "Run!" But Daniel did not move. Instead, his eyes locked on the pouch at her belt. He realized then what she had meant. "The only thing they fear. Give it to me," Daniel shouted. "The pouch. Use it." Her silver eyes blazed. For a heartbeat she hesitated. Then she tore the pouch free and hurled it into his hands. "Protect it with your life." Daniel clutched the pouch tightly, feeling the weight of the crystal inside. The hunters froze, their glowing eyes snapping toward him. For the first time, Daniel saw something in them that looked like hesitation. One of them hissed in rage. Its voice echoed, shaking the walls. Daniel could not understand the words, but he understood the meaning. The crystal terrified them. His roommate slashed her blade again, sparks filling the room. She shouted, "Hold it high, human. Show them you are not afraid." Daniel's body shook, but he raised the pouch above his head. The glow from the crystal seeped through the fabric, spilling golden light across the walls. The hunters recoiled, hissing, their bodies twisting in fury. The machine beneath the bed screamed with energy, lights pulsing wildly. The walls rattled. Daniel felt the floor vibrate beneath his feet. The hunters raised their weapons again. But now they hesitated. His roommate stood beside him, her voice strong despite her fear. "You see, human, this is why they hunt me. This is why they will never stop. The truth burns them. The truth can destroy them." Daniel's grip tightened on the pouch. His heart raced, but he felt something new inside him. Not just fear, but fire. He realized he had made his choice long ago. He would not run, not tonight, not ever. The hunters hissed again, their claws scraping against the walls. The room filled with their rage. His roommate raised her blade. Daniel raised the pouch. Together they stood against the shadows. The silence shattered as the hunters charged, and in that final moment, Daniel knew his life was no longer his own. He had stepped into a war older than his species, a war of truth against silence, a war he could never walk away from.